Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new and improved episode of 1NG Podcast. I am your host, Chef B. Do me a favor if you haven't already, follow me on X/Twitter at 1NG underscore podcast. That's 1NG underscore podcast. Also, now available on YouTube and other platforms where you get all your podcast needs. Now, let's get into the show. All right, Panther fans, Panther Nation. Your boy is back with a new and improved podcast, and I am super excited to have revamped the brand, the show, everything. And I'm currently working on some new merchandise and t-shirts that will be coming out soon. And Panther Nation, I'm telling you, this gear is fire. But in today's episode, I will be going over each position group on the offense. That's right, each group, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, and the big boys up front, the O-line, with a full breakdown on each player and the possibilities of the future. So let's jump right in and start with the quarterbacks. First up, you know him, you love him, Bryce Young. Bryce Young's coming into his third year at 23 years old. Let's check out his stats real quick from 2024. Before he had a 60.9 completion percentage, over 2,400 passing yards with 15 passing touchdowns. He also had a 6.3 yards per pass with the 82.2 rating. Played 14 games, obviously some issues in the beginning, but we'll get into all of that with 249 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, which were pretty nice, by the way. Only 9 interceptions on the season, and he was sacked 29 times. So we all know skill sets with Bryce Young. His traits are he's an elite processor, accurate, nimble footwork, calm under pressure. So 2024, we know he showed growth late in the season, especially post week 10. So the outlook for him in 2025, surrounded by better weapons, a retooled offensive line, which we're going to talk about, with Dave Canales' quarterback scheme, with bootlegs, play action, vertical seams, expect an improved rhythm and cleaner pockets. And this could potentially put Bryce Young in that top 10 quarterback conversation, especially if the wide receivers gel early, which don't worry, we're going to get into more of that very soon. Moving on, though, Andy Dalton coming in next. We all know Andy Dalton is that veteran presence for Bryce Young. He's a mentor for him and an emergency starter that's capable of stabilizing the offense if needed. Absolutely solid, reliable backup and exactly what you need. But let's take a quick look at his stats. Had 6 games last season in 2024 with 106 completions with on 160 attempts, which is a 66.3 percentage. Had a little bit shy of 1,000 yards, 6.2 average with almost 165 yards per game. Not too shabby, for a backup, I would say. And 7 touchdowns with 6 INTs and 82.0 QBR, and he was sacked 7 times. So, like I said, we all know what Andy Dalton brings to the table. Red Rifle, he's a reliable veteran presence there to stabilize the offense if needed in a pinch, an emergency starter. And he's done a great job. He's done an absolute great job for us. And we all love Andy Dalton for that. So moving on, we have some developmental guys in the background there, some camp arms, I would like to say. But we got Jack Plummer and Ethan Garbers. They're camp arms with long shot backup potential. But, Plummer brings a little experience from Cal and Louisville, and Garbers is accurate but raw. But, these guys are just camp arms, so no need to dive deep onto them guys. And we all heard the noise, the bus talks, the size talks. But let me ask you this. What happens when Bryce Young has protection, weapons, and a coach that believes in him? Let's talk what Bryce Unleashed really looks like in 2025. So, as we all know, in 2024, Bryce started a little slow, but the turnaround was real. He had a higher completion percentage and improved poise after week 10. Flashes of elite pocket movement and deep accuracy when protected, and he played with probably not the greatest supporting cast in the league last year. We had some decent players, don't get me wrong, but if you're looking around at the top teams, we don't have anybody that really jumps out at you. We got great players, don't get me wrong, but Let's keep it a buck. But anyways, Bryce was pressured over 40% of his dropbacks. That's top 3 in the league, yet still managed to post a 66% adjusted completion rate. Absolutely insane. That's mental toughness at its peak. Also, the Dave Canales effect. We can't forget about our head coach, Mr. Canales. But anyways, he's the QB whisperer. He took Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith to career highs. These guys are playing much better. Geno, maybe not so much right now, but he still looked way better than he did over the last few years. Scheme is built on bootlegs, like I've already said, motion, easy reads, and play action. A lot of movement, and that's key. That's absolutely key to Bryce Young's strengths. That's what he loves that. He thrives in those type of scheme. And that's really what you need to be doing is you got to be playing to your players' strengths, designing the scheme. And I've already said it in other pods, it's a Bryce Young scheme, but we're using layered concepts to simplify decision making, which is perfect for Bryce elite processing. This ain't no Frank Wright static offense anymore, right? We have the movement, we have the rhythm, and Bryce thrives in rhythm. So let's also talk about these wide receiver upgrades, right? That we got. We got a couple of guys over here now. We went and drafted the best available wide receiver in the draft, just this draft class here. Wide receiver one in the making and T Mac, Tataroa McMillan. He's got the size, he's got the catch radius, he's got smooth releases. This guy's going to be an absolute stud for us. Don't worry, I'm going to break down him a little more here, but just going a quick recap here of what our weapon upgrades look like. We have Xavier Legette, who's going to have a great breakout season this year. Again, this guy was here last year, but it's tough to come out and make a huge impact immediately as a wide receiver, especially for a guy, we got to remember, who didn't really hit the ground running in college. It took him a couple of years to figure it out. So we all had high expectations for him. But again, he's going to come along nicely, and we're going to see that emergence this coming season along with Bryce. And then we also have the veteran safety net with Adam Thielen, still clutching third down. He should hopefully be able to stay around a little bit longer this season, a little bit healthier with the wide receivers that we do have that we can rotate around and with him. So that's beautiful. And then we have a dynamic running back threat with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dwaddle in there. I mean, we're looking really stacked. Both 1,000-yard rushing guys, not to mention we drafted Trevor Etienne, not to mention Raheem Blackshear back there. You got some guys. Low-key like Raheem Blackshear. I think he's, solid. He's been solid for us. I really like that we gave him an opportunity here, but he's definitely solid. So we have some weapons here. Basically, we struggled a little bit last year because, we had to figure it out a little bit. And now with the weapon upgrades that I talked about, we're looking golden for Bryce Young to really break out this year in 2020. Not to mention the O-line stability. We had added Robert Hunt. He's a mauler at right guard. Icky had a bounce back season. Taylor Moton, we all know what he's going to bring to the table. Solid bookends. We got Corbett looking to return healthy. He's going to lock down the interior. And then we even have Cade Mays in rotation. Like we got the juice now. Plus, biggest thing is chemistry. We're all been together a year. We've had a couple of ups and downs, right? So retaining the core is a big key factor. Having that chemistry wins championships on top of defense. But a quick example of the stability of the O-line and the also improvement, Panthers allowed 65 sacks in 2023. And in 2024, we gave up 36. So that's almost less than half. League average is around 45. So, Bryce is getting more time, cleaner pockets, cleaner throws. So that's huge. And what's going to come from that is the main X factor. And that's the main X factor that we've seen the difference in Bryce, and that's confidence, right? Bryce's greatest strength isn't his arm, it's his processing, right? So if he ain't confident in what's going on around him, we see what can happen. So he just needs time with the scheme and weapons around him. The speed of his brain can finally show on the field. But anyways, is this the year Bryce Young silenced the doubters? Does T Mac finish as WR1 on the team? What's the ceiling for this offense? Top 15, top 10? Me personally, I'm going to say we could possibly be a top 15 offense without a doubt. And Bryce Young has a very good opportunity to be a top 10 quarterback this year. What do you think? Get at me on X at 1NG_podcast. Let your boy know what you think. But say what you want. But this is Bryce's moment with real talent a quarterback-friendly coach and protection up front. We're finally about to see the Bryce Young Carolina draft that is the number one, unleashed, unfiltered, and ready to go. Moving on here, who's going to be helping them with that process? Who's going to be protecting them? The big boys up front. And who do we got up first? On our offensive line, we got Ike Ekwonu. Ike played 909 offensive snaps with a PFF grade of 71.7, 38 out of 140 tackles, a pass blocking grade of 66.2, which is 65th, and a run blocking 80.5, which was 11th. He allowed 7 sacks and committed 12 penalties. So he had a tremendous bounce back season from just years past. He had a good, strong rookie year, struggled a little bit the year after that, and then bounced back this season. So kudos to Icky. I love Icky. I'm glad we got him for that 5th-year option. And, he's going to be good for us. We're going to lock him in for a long-term deal, and I'm excited for that. Going to move on here so I'm not taking up too much time. So next up, we got Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis, we all know he's a beast. D-Lou played 942 offensive snaps, earning a PFF overall grade of 75.5, 17th among 136 guards, with a pass blocking grade of 72.0, which was 30th. A run blocking grade of 76.9, which was 16th, and he allowed 6 sacks and committed 6 penalties. And he's a monster. We all know what we're getting out of D-Lou. He's a hog molly, eats up a lot of space, a space eater. He can engage in blocks really well, and he's going to be a future leader on this team, 100%. Stats kind of show it right there. He was also tremendous help, as well as Robert Hunt, which we're going to talk about here in a second, in improving this offensive line. But moving on, we have Austin Corbett. If he's healthy, Corbett's a reliable guy. AC played 5 games at center in the 2024 season, before he tore his bicep and ended, was out for the season from that, but it was 291 snaps with the PFF grade of 62.2, which was 32nd out of 64, and then a pass block grade of 64.7, which was 29th. A run block grade of 59, which was 39th, and he allowed 1 sack, committed 1 penalty. So not too bad for a guy who played 5 games. He was playing at a high level before he went down, but no worries because we got Cade Mays in rotation with him. So I'll just move right on to Cade Mays. Cade Mays played 11 games. 2024, he started 5 at center, and he had 495 offensive snaps. His PFF grade was 61.1, which was 19th out of centers, extremely good. His pass blocking grade was 74.9, which was 9th, incredible. And then his run blocking grade was 66.9, which was 21st, not too shabby. He allowed 0 sacks and committed 5 penalties and missed 1 game due to illness. So he's obviously a rising center and a star for us, and hence exactly what I was talking about for Bryce Young's, unleashed season here coming up. Why he's going to break out is because everybody's starting to get their groove. People are starting to gel. Just like I said, Cade Mays, 11 games. He was, as far as pass blocking, top 10. And then overall, he was 19th out of 64 centers. So not bad for somebody that played 11 games. So we got the depth on the offensive line. Absolutely made his strength, kept it his strength, what you need to be a consistent winning franchise. So, and we finally have done that. So we got Brady Chris. He earned 69.1 PFF grade, which was 13th among 57 centers. Not too bad when he rotated in the center there. And then he had a 75.8 run blocking grade, which was 2nd. 0 pressures allowed on 40 pass blocking snaps in week 6. So these guys playing in a rotational role are playing at a high level. And I've said it before in podcasts, your rotational pieces have to be able to play at a high level, almost at a starting level, in order for you to be good. And we're seeing that. So watch out for 2025. Moving on, Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt started 16 games at right guard for the Carolina Panthers in 2024. He played 966 snaps, earned a PFF grade of 67.7, which was 30 among 136, with a pass blocking grade of a 57.5, which was 85th, not too good, but he still played really well for us. But either way, his run blocking grade was a 72.0, which was 26. He allowed 5 sacks, committed 5 penalties, and he was selected to his first Pro Bowl. He was an alternate, but either way, he got there. Kudos to him. He did really great, and another great addition to the team here last season, and exactly where you have to start to build your foundation on your offense or your defense. Starts on a line, starts in the trenches. This is where games are won. Moving on, Chandler Zavala, and pretty much why I'm re-recording this. But anyways, this is my dude. I don't know how I missed him in the first time, but he played 17 games, started two at guard. He had 198 offensive snaps with a PFF grade of 71.2, which is 28th out of 136. Absolutely, hoorah. What a great job. Moving on, though, he's got pass blocking grade of 73.9, which is 24th. And then a run blocking grade of 71.9, which is 27th. He gave up 0 sacks and only committed 2 penalties. Obviously, he started 2 games, more of a rotational role. But this is what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. A guy that most people were ready to just send him on his way after an abysmal rookie season. I mean, really turned it on. And this is one of my guys. This is one of my guys that I was actually very excited about, that I actually scouted and said he'd be really good for us. He would be an impact rookie, 100%. I thought he'd be a little bit more impactful in the right way, but he, obviously had a very down season in his rookie year, but he really turned it around. And I couldn't say anything better about Chandler Zavala. He's an absolute beast. And, we got some youth. We have talent on this offensive line. It's incredible. But moving on, Taylor Moton. We all know what Taylor Moton brings to the table. He's an elite level pass protector, extremely consistent. T-Mote played 846 offensive snaps. His PFF grade was a 77.7. That's 19th out of 140 tackles, with a pass blocking grade of an 80.6, was 19th, and a run blocking grade of 66.9, which was 52. He allowed 1 sack and committed 1 penalty, and he missed 3 games due to injury. So there you go, folks. We all know what T-Mo brings to the table. He's one of our most consistent tackles. He's always there. He's Mr. Reliable. We all love Taylor Moton. T-Mo, you the man. Appreciate everything you do and bring to the table. And, we have some rotational guys. I'm not going to break down their stats, but I'll talk about them a little bit. Some of the guys I did talk about that were rotational, I have honorable mentions because they are definitely going to be our starters very soon in the future. But we have Yosh Nijman in there in rotation. We have Michael Tarquin. Sorry if I messed that up, but we have him in rotation. We have Luke Kendra as well, with Steven Losoya. I'm gonna say Losoya. But yeah, these guys are UDFAs. Just fighting for a spot. Some camp guys, but still some depth. Also got Brandon Walton there too. But they provide rotational value. And nothing wrong with that. But all these guys, fit the scheme, zone heavy, movement based attack. We all seen the improvements, and we got the depth, so we're looking good. We are looking good. But moving on to the running backs. Running backs, we all know them. We love them. My main man. I don't even need to say anything else. If you listen to my pod, which I know you are, I'm all about my main man, Chuba Hubbard. He had 250 carries last season for over 1,000 rushing yards, which I called in the beginning of the season, with almost a 5 yards per carry. He had 10 rushing touchdowns plus 43 receptions with 171 yard receiving and 1 receiving touchdown. Absolutely a beast. We all know what he brings to the table. He's decisive, good in outside zone, and he's an underrated receiver. He's an absolute workhorse, and if you don't know by now, Chuba Hubbard's that boy. You know what I mean? He is that boy. He's our RB1, always will be our RB1. And for 2025, looking out for him, look for him to continue that success, even though we added Rico Dowdle, which I'll talk about here in a second. Doesn't matter. He's our RB1. This is just to take away some of those reps. Not really sure how they're going to utilize them. I personally think they're probably going to utilize Dowdle in that pass catching, short down and distant situations. That's where I'm thinking we're going to be using them, but I ain't the coach, but we'll see. That's where I think we'll use them though. Chuba Hubbard, dog, RB1. You know him. You love him. That's my man. Hang it up. Moving on, like I said, Rico Dowdle. We got him from Dallas. He played 16 games over there. He had, 235 times he ran for over 1,000 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He also had 39 receptions for 250 yards with 3 receiving touchdowns. His PFF grade was 73.9, which is 21 out of 47. His rushing grade was 74.4. His receiving grade was a 64.9, which was 21st. And he had 672 yards after contact and forced 16 missed tackles. So that's why I think we're going to use him as a red zone threat, short yardage back, and also really nice in the pass catching role. He's a violent runner with good contact balance, so that's why I think we should be using him there. But like I said, I'm not the coach, but he's got some explosiveness to him. He's got some juice. He could take some of Chuba's touches. Obviously that's just to so Chuba doesn't, we don't wear him down. He's our workhorse, but you don't want to work down your best horse. So there you go. That's what we're gonna do. We're playing it smart. That's how you do it. You got to have rotational guys. You got to take some of the load off of Chuba so he doesn't get hurt, right? So we can keep him for those 4 years that we re-signed him to. But moving on, we also drafted Trevor Etienne. He's explosive, twitchy, a home run hitter, kind of similar to Dwaddle here, but this is going to be our guy for a little bit longer. We only signed Rico to a 1-year deal. That's why we drafted Trevor. But anyways, he's, probably going to be a third down kick return, punt return guy. We can think of like a cheap version of Rashad White here. That's how I would say a good comp for him there. Or Travis Etienne light with more pop, less polish. That would work. But anyways, he played 10 games, missed some time due to a rib injury over there in Georgia. But he had some good stats. He had 122 carries, 690 yards, and 5 yards per carry, and then 9 rushing touchdowns. So you can see he's got some of that yard contact there. He's got excellent vision. He's one-cut decisiveness. He's a little bit undersized. Well, not to say undersized, but 5'9", below the 25 percentile in height and weight. He ran a 4.42 40 at the combine, so not too shabby. And he's a good, reliable receiver, so we'll see what can happen here. And then let's not forget, moving on, we got Raheem Blackshear. One of my guys, I love Raheem. He's a solid, underrated player on a team, but he does a good job. He, had some okay stats, nothing to really go into. Just an honorable mention to my man Raheem. Great job out there. Hopefully they give you some more opportunities. But he's definitely going to be, you'll see him in the kick return. We'll see him in the punt return, and we're going to see him in some rotational downs depending on situation. So gotta love Raheem. Sleeper there. He's a sleeper. But moving on to the Golden Corral here, the high and mighty wide receiver room. Everybody loves the wide receivers. We're going to go right up to main man here. T-Mac, our number 1 draft pick this year. The dude's an absolute monster. He's WR1 potential. Scratch it off. He's a WR1 at 6'4", 200 plus elite body control. You can't say enough about it. He's just strong at the catch point. He wins in traffic. Deceptively long speed. He's going to be the X. He's a red zone mismatch. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. Bryce Young's got that WR1. We're going to be cooking. I think that we just basically got a young Keenan Allen or a young T. Higgins. Not to say that he's not young already, but yeah, this is where it really starts. And like I said, Bryce builds trust with these guys. McMillan could lead the team in targets, with those alpha traits and some, technician polish. He'll be absolutely killing it. But he had 84 receptions, 100 yards, third in the nation with 8 touchdowns and a 15.7 yard per catch. The dude's PFF grade in the red zone was 80.9 with 8 out of 15 red zone catches. It was a 53.3 success rate, 12th best among NFL wide receivers over 23-24 as far as year-wise, the year 23-24. Overall separation rate against single coverage was 62.2, which is in the 62nd percentile. We already said it, elite height, wingspan. Volleyball background, 50-50 balls in the 80-20, which should have been Leggett, but this guy's really going to bring it. And now we got 2 guys that can really excel at contested catches and high point catches. This is looking really, really good. Just talking about one guy. He aligns. He's got the versatility. He can play X, he can play Z, and slot. He's just going to make mismatches across the board for everyone, especially nickel corners. He's got really good route running. He's got elite short area quickness. I just can't say enough about this guy. He's going to be insane. He rarely lets passes into his body. We're talking about Leggett catching with your hands, and he just as well off target throws. He only had 8 drops in 2024. So, guy's absolutely a beast. He's going to be the reason why we finally break free here, along with the others and the additionals. This is where we're going to really become that team. Moving on, though, we have Adam Thielen. Talked about him a little bit. He's the veteran glue guy. Still one of the best route runners and third down targets. Obviously, he's pushing 34 or something like that, 33. He's a little older, but, he's not really going to be out there that much, especially with all the other wide receivers we have on the team. Still just more of a mentor for McMillan, Leggett. Played 10 games last season. He had 62 targets, and he had 5 touchdowns for 615 yards. But obviously got hurt, missed 7 games due to a hamstring injury. So again, I don't see too much of usage out of Adam Thielen, except, being there to be that mentor. And, he's going to play too, but he's, limited role, I'm assuming. He's not going to be out there every down. He might be, I don't know. We'll see. But I would like to see him use a little less and kind of let these other guys start cooking. But moving on, Xavier Leggett, my main man, my guy. We all know him. He's our vertical threat, big, fast, physical. Think like a kind of like I said, DK Metcalf. Hate me if you want, but that's what it is. He's likely going to be the WR3 this season coming up, depending on what we do with Thielen, but he's going to stretch the field and win 1v1s. He got much. He's been working really hard this offseason, so I'd like to see them improvements, and he can improve in his release package, and that could jump him to the WR2 conversation as far as on the team. Xavier Leggett had 49 catches for only 497 yards and 4 touchdowns in 16 games. He had 6 rushes for 24 yards, but, he struggled a little bit. We all know that. He didn't really hit the ground running in college. He needed a little time to develop. He's going to need the same time. But either way, he had an 8.1 drop rate, which is below average. So everybody's hating on him for dropping the ball. But love Xavier Leggett. He's going to be great for us. Just let him develop. Moving on, Hunter Renfrow, another wide receiver a lot of people are down on, which is crazy. Smart route runner, absolutely reliable, valuable versus zone coverages. He eats zone coverages up. The dude's nickname's literally Third and Winfrow. But anyways, he's going to help Rice on third downs. And, let's pull up some stats from 2021. He had 103 receptions for over 1,000 yards on 128 targets, averaged 10 yards per catch with 9 touchdowns. First Pro Bowl selection. Of his career. So there you go in 2021. The dude's a former Pro Bowler. Took some time off because he had an autoimmune disease, and everybody's like he's trash because he didn't play last season. Well, he didn't play because he had a literal disease. But anyways, he's gonna make the team 100% and also be extremely reliable, basically replacing Adam Thielen. Moving on. David Moore, savvy vet, slot backup, can play kind of all around, knows the system, familiar with Dave Canales, probably on the roster bubble if you ask me. Then we have Jalen Coker. We all know Jalen Coker is a beast. Surprise UDFA that kind of broke out a little bit in a sense because he was a UDFA. We didn't really expect much out of him, so he played pretty comparable to Xavier Leggett. But anyways, he had 32 receptions for 478 yards and 2 touchdowns in 11 games, and he averaged 14.9 yards per catch and led the team in per passer rating when targeted with 108.8. So he's making a team too. Then you have Jimmy Horn, who we drafted. He's going to be a jet sweep special returner guy. He's super quick. The dude's literally elite short area quickness and acceleration. Ideal slot receiver. Super twitchiest. Basically the twitchiest dude out there. He was really showing his stuff in mini camp there. And he was even outpacing, T-Mac in mini camp and stuff. Some reports were coming out. His route runner is very crafty. He's very slippery on his releases. He's got an insane change of direction. And he can do it in mid route without losing speed. So he excels on quick hitting routes, slants, hitches, etc., and spread offenses and movement offenses, which we're riding. So it really works out. Dude's really good, as far as, trait wise and what he could bring to the table. So let's very hopeful for him. 2025 here, I'm going to see him basically just being a kick returner, punt returner. Maybe we get him in some, in the slot, get him moving around a little bit, but he's going to be in a rotational role as a moving in 2025 here. But he's going to be able to provide us some juice, what we really need. Who knows? We might even be able to see some wild plays out of him because he's really good at ball tracking anyways. So, the sky's the limit with this kid. He's kind of our secret weapon in a sense. And someone that probably teams ain't really thinking about. But he's going to be good for us. So watch out for Jimmy Horn Jr. there. Then moving on, we got a couple other guys here. We got Kobe Hudson. He's a camp sleeper, reliable hands, good in scramble drills. He's a UDFA out of UCF. He's got some elite release packages with quick feet, and he's not too shabby. He's got a good jab step with some speed releases. He can beat press coverage pretty well. He's got some decent body control with some strong ball tracking. So this guy's pretty decent. He's good at catching away from his frame. He can do some things. So he played 60% outside and 40% slot across his career. So, he's got some experience there moving around. Former high school quarterback and, gives him a little edge there in coverages and route manipulation. We're just going to move on. Tight ends here, Tommy Tremble. We all know TT, my main man. I love TT. Athletic, he's an H-back style. He's good after the catch, really good blocker too. Likely to be flexed or move around in motion. He's probably going to have a high snap count coming up this season. But anyways, in 2024, he had 23 catches for 234 yards, scored 2 touchdowns, one of them being the infamous meme we've all seen with the Steph Curry touchdown from Bryce Young. His average per reception was 10 yards, not too shabby. And he wasn't too bad. So I'm not going to break down too much on the run tight ends here because we don't really use the tight ends all like that. But look for his role to kind of increase again in this season coming up. Dave Canales talked about using the tight ends a little more, so I would expect to see a little more usage out of Tommy Tremble. And then moving on to Ja'Tavion Sanders, another guy that I expect to really uptick in usage. He's a really good receiver, long, athletic, a little bit raw as a blocker, but he's improved a little bit this season just past. But he's a good mismatch for linebackers, etc. He's a great, go-to and seam targets on that 12 personnel. So I'd love to see him be out there more and us utilizing that tight end room. I'm not going to break down the stats because, like I said, they barely did anything. So anyways, not saying that in a bad way. Moving on, we added a couple of guys. We added Mitchell Evans in the draft. Evans has some upside. He's as a possession chain mover, reliable, basically target for Bryce there. I could definitely see him getting early starts here because he's a really versatile, wide tight end with the dual threat ability as a receiver and an inline blocker. He's pretty solid. So he's got quarterback background too with high football IQ and route awareness. So he knows where he kind of needs to be. He's got strong hands, good body control. Also another guy that's good in contested catches, framing defenders to create catch space. So this is what I mean. He makes good, spectacular grabs, including a one-handed catch versus Ohio State that we all seen a couple years ago. So he's got some good size to him at 6'5", 258. He's great, perfect tight end size there to make some targets happen, make some good red zone things happen. He did get hurt in 2023 at an ACL tear and then a broken foot in 2022. But again, we're not really going to be using these guys all like that. So I feel like in a little bit more of an increased role offensively in a whole as a tight end room, he'll be fine because we're not running these guys all the time. Anyways, then we have here James Mitchell. He's a former, 5th round pick from the Lions. Spent some time over there. He was a Virginia Tech product. Again, 6'4", 240, another decent sized guy. Nothing to really, break it all down with. So, well, moving on as we wrap up the show here. The offensive identity under Dave Canales is spoken, right? We now see what it is. The scheme's a wide zone run, play action pass, quarterback, boot action, layered passing concepts. That's what we're looking at. Right? The goal is to basically get Bryce into rhythm, keep him upright, and feed what? Big body receivers, guys that can go up, climb the ladder, and get after the ball. And I'm pretty sure I remember me saying just that not too long ago. So that is our identity. Okay. Feeding the big body receivers, keeping Bryce in the rhythm, letting him have weapons, giving him wide receivers with size and athleticism, getting some power back on that offensive line and maintaining the stability of it, keeping the chemistry of the whole core and explosive potential from Etienne, from Dwaddle, from McMillan, from Leggett, from Jimmy Horn Jr. I mean, we have weapons. So let's just call it what it is, folks. This isn't the same old Panthers offense. Bryce Young has protection. He has weapons. He has freedom. I mean, we are really looking at this offense to be really, really good in 2025. And not for nothing, Chuba Hubbard's, not just holding down the backfield. Let's not to forget him. He's proven he's one of the most underrated running backs in the league. And I've already said T-Mac, he ain't going to be just a rookie. He's going to prove that he's him. And then on top of that, like I said, the Dave Canales era is here. The excuses are gone. And for the first time in a long time, the Panthers offense looks dangerous. And that's going to wrap it up for today's show, folks. I am your host, Chef B, and this has been 1NG Podcast. Stay safe. And as always, keep pounding, and I will catch y'all on the next episode.